about how to be an involved parent in the Canyon School District, and also talk to you a little bit about how we plan to communicate with you in the coming school year. You're probably tired of all of the texts and the emails that you're getting.
They're all from
because
him.
They are from me, yes. But that's because we have a duplication of effort right now. We are going into Parent Square, but we're still sending messages out on Skylert as well. And that's because some parents either haven't gotten the word or have chosen to do it later to sign up for their Parent Square account. And we just don't want those folks to miss out on some of the big announcements that we have.
So all of you hear from us twice.
So, or
Aren't you
3 or
lucky?
4 times. So if we can wait just a couple more minutes and then we will get going.
Before we start, what do all of you hope to get from this class?
I want to learn more about Parent Square.
Okay.
Fantastic. I see a couple of heads nodding. What else? Just how to,
Is it a how-to or what it does, or what would you like to know?
What it does, like just more about it, like how maybe to communicate. I'm used to doing a reminder.
Yes,
Communicating
yeah.
back to teachers, so I'm
Yeah.
curious, like,
Okay.
when we respond to teachers.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Okay, we'll go over
Yes.
that. We'll wait for just a few more minutes, and everybody sit up straight. Nancy Tingy is in the room.
Yes. School
Our
board
good friend
president.
Nancy Tingy is here with us tonight, so if we say something wrong, she'll raise her hand and say, I think you need to start over.
in all seriousness, Nancy is our Board of Education President, Nancy
Yes.
Tingy. Just came in there. She's seeing how we behave.
I think that
Oh,
she
are
saw
we
that the
in
3
trouble?
troublemakers were on one panel together and decided to come in and make sure that we weren't saying things we should not say.
We're usually pretty good.
Well, I think that we can get going, and then Justin maybe in just a few minutes to make sure that we've got everything going on the camera. We want to alert everyone to the camera that's at the back of the room. Like we mentioned, we are recording these sessions so we can place them on CSD TV. That's our YouTube channel. That's so that if parents can't come tonight in person, they can tune in later. The comfort of their home and in their jammies, listen to what we're presenting at the Canyoneering Academy. And first off, thank you so much for coming tonight. We realize that your lives are busy. You have a lot going on. In fact, I thought I was going to be a little bit late tonight because I had to run home and let the dog out. I didn't want there to be a big mess when I went home, so I took a few minutes and took care of my little Jax, a little golden doodle. I'm sure that all of you have things with your families, with your kids, all of your hobbies, maybe even a little bit of work. We understand that investing this time on a Thursday night means that you're really interested in making sure that your children have a great experience in school. And that's what we're here for. My name is Jeff Haney. I'm the Director of Communications for the Canyon School District. Like Susan mentioned, most of the messages you receive that are about the district come from me. So I will apologize in advance. I'm the chief spokesperson for the district. We run all of the internal and external communications out of the communications office. We do the media relations work, the public relations work, the marketing. We provide information for the Board of Education and the administration. And we are conduits for information for the schools. If they need support in providing information to their community, we do that for them. We also play a major role in preparing for possible emergencies in schools. The communications staff is on that group in our district called the Emergency Management Team, or EMT. So we work very closely with the administrators to prepare all of our incident command manuals and all of the communications to our schools and our community about how we can maintain safe, welcoming, and prepared campuses. It's a fun job, and I'm so glad that we get to be here with you tonight. I work very closely with Susan, who's our public engagement coordinator, and one of my favorite PTA moms in the district, Mrs. Betty Shaw. If you've never had Betty's fudge, it is world famous. I say it's made with love and magic, but she says it's sugar. But
And a few
Susan
other things.
is a public engagement coordinator. Susan, you want to introduce yourself and talk a little bit about what you do?
So I am the public engagement coordinator for Canyons. I do a lot of government relations and community relations. So I work with our community groups, with our city, county, and state elected officials, and then get the privilege of being the liaison to the parent groups in the district. So the PTA, the school community councils, and other groups. So I get to train, we get to discuss communications and discuss what's working and not working for parents and for parent groups with some of our student groups, with our peer court. I help with Sharice Hilton oversees that, some of our different groups. So. And Miss Betty?
And I'm Betty Shaw. I have been involved with PTA in the district since the inception of Canyons District, and before in Jordan District, and then in other states where we had young children. And I am still involved with PTA, and I don't have any kids in school, but I have a granddaughter who's in first grade, and she's wonderful. And so I'm just here to help you figure out how to get involved with wherever you are in your life, whether you have a ton of time, whether you have no time. How can you be of help? How can you be engaged with your kids in school and helping out and figure that whole thing out? Because I had 6 children, and it gets fun. I was telling somebody, I said, my kids were involved with soccer and football and wrestling and track and cross country and rugby and drama and debate and all, it's like, okay, really? And so you have to split in 7 different ways, and it was always fun to do that. But anyhow, so I'm here to help kind of figure that out for you guys if you need some help.
Well, let's start out with that. So all of the parents in Canyon School District are invited to be members of the Parent-Teacher Association or Parent-Teacher Student Association. BTAs are for elementary schools and the PTSAs are for secondary. And Betty, maybe you can talk for a second about what you think is the main benefit of being involved in parent groups like the PTA.
I think the main benefit is I think it's kind of a twofold one. It lets your students know, your kids know, that you care enough to be involved somehow with them at school. It lets the teacher know that you care enough to be involved with them and their students at school. If you can't be at school, if you work, or if you have other kids at home, there's other things you can do at home. You can make phone calls, you can do emails, you can do things like that. So it's not always having to be physically in the class or physically at the school. But there's so many ways that you can do it. And telling your kids by your actions, I care about how you're doing in school. I was a reading mom for so many first and second grade teachers. And seeing those kids, not all of them have parents that take the time or can take the time to help them with reading homework or helping with any homework. I had one little girl that was in a first grade class, and I'd say, Kelsey, did you have your homework back? And she'd put her head down, and no, nobody would read with me last night. And I said, well, what about your brother? No, he said, I'm too stupid to read. I said, you know what, come on over here. We're going to do your homework right here. And so I had her come over, and I read with her, and I'd say, you did so good, you get to go to the next paper. That child grew 2 inches right there and walked kind of mincingly back to her seat instead of being so down. And that showed my kids and the other kids in the class that I care about them. Now, I know that not every parent can be there. I love that when dads can be there. That says another huge thing to the kids, that dads take the time to be there to be with their kids, or at least take the time to show that they are interested in them. I tried to always be home when my kids got home from school. Hey, tell me something you did at school today. You never ask a yes or no question to kids because you get a yes or no, and that's it. So I learned that early on. But these things where you're getting involved with PTA, PTA has resources for parents and families. They have opportunities. I've seen people who have started out being this little timid, shy kind of stand behind somebody else, and they blossom into a leader. That's another great thing to show our kids, is that their parents are leaders and they can become leaders. And you don't have to be you don't have to have a degree. I don't have any degrees. I've told people that. Susan called me a liar first time I told her that. I said, I don't have a degree in college. I took a few years in college, but then I quit and went to work to put my husband through school. And it's provided a very good living for us, and so I haven't gone back to college. And I don't know why not. I got involved with PTA and with scouting and with other things with youth, and so I haven't done that. It's not to say that I couldn't or that I shouldn't or that anybody else shouldn't, but that for me, that's what I did. And so, but it said something to my kids that I cared how they were doing in school. I want you to know that I care whether you're paying attention. I care whether you're doing the homework. I care whether you're emotionally invested in what you're doing, and if you're emotionally okay. There's a lot of kids these last few years with COVID. That's a huge, huge side effect that COVID has taken that nobody could have ever guessed. Our emotional well-being is in the toilet for adults and kids alike.
Now, Betty,
Teachers,
a lot of parents, like you mentioned, can't necessarily be there to
Right.
be or volunteer at the carnival, but as a member of PTAs myself,
Yes.
And every school in the Canyons District has
Yes,
a
you are.
PTA,
Yes.
I still get those updates from
Yes.
the PTA that tells me what's happening.
Yes.
So what do parents learn from those updates so that they can remain even knowledgeable about what's happening?
Well, the PTA will send out notices about, what's going on this week or what to look for this week. And you say, oh, I didn't even know about that. Because, bless their hearts, the kids come home, hey, what's going on at school this week? I don't know. I was like, okay, really, guys? And that's why they don't send flyers home in backpacks, because they end up at the bottom of backpacks. That's historic. My oldest son had an entire locker full of flyers in his locker. I said, and homework that had been done that was in the bottom of his locker. Anyhow, that was a discussion that we had. But anyhow, so yeah, the PTA will inform you about what's happening in school, what they're involved with. If there's a reading night, if there's a carnival, if there's an education night for parents to come learn about different things going on. Emotional well-being again is a huge subject, and PTA is very involved with helping parents get resources for kids and parents alike who are having trouble.
Now, one of the other things.
I think she had a question
Oh, do you
real
have a
quick.
question on PTA? Okay.
I don't have time to join, I'm a single mom, but do I get notifications from the events they do, so I can at least pick and choose
Sure.
That's a great
what I'm
question.
available
Yes,
for?
you can, and you don't have to, if you don't have any time to help in that, that's okay. By joining PTA, that gives us the voice that we need, and the stronger our voice is, the more that the people on the Hill listen to us. And I'll put a plug in right now. We're having a Meet the Candidates night, 2 nights next week, Tuesday and Wednesday. There's one at Indian Hills on Tuesday for people in the south, and there's one at Midvale Middle School for the north people. Most candidates are coming both nights, and it's going to be great. You can go there, you can ask them questions. But yes, by joining PTA, you will get the updates, and we get that some people don't have time, and I totally support you in that. By joining that 5 to 7 to, I think the most is 750 in the district right now, that shows us that we have those numbers that we can go up to the Hill and say, we got, all these members that we're representing. And we do represent you up on the Hill every day at the legislature. And so it just gives us a bigger voice. We are the largest parent group in the state. And so when PTA speaks, they listen. So even if you don't have time to go to the school or even make phone calls or anything else, that's okay. You can still get updates by being a member and having your email, registered with them. And so it's just a great way to be involved and to see what's going on and say, oh, that is something I can do.
And in addition to that, the principals almost always have a newsletter that will go out, and that newsletter will tell you additionally what the PTA is doing, what other things the school may be doing, and it may give you some school perspectives beyond what the
Right.
PTA is doing. So
Right.
they should always, Jeff will talk to you here in a few minutes about Parent Squared and other communication from the schools and from the districts. One of the most important things as a parent that you can do is to make sure that your communications methods in Skyward are up to date, so that however the school or the district communicate, whether it's in an emergency or whether it is just what's happening this week, that you're getting those. So always make sure that those communication channels, your email, your phone numbers are up to date. We certainly don't ever want an emergency to happen and we not be able to reach you very quickly. So please check that and verify that once or twice a year. And then this year, we've introduced a new Parent Squared. Before we get to Parent Squared, though, another great way to serve is on your school community council. If you're not aware of what a school community council is, at statehood, Utah was given land that produces revenue for the children in Utah in perpetuity. And that money comes back in the form of something called land trust money. And the school community council is assigned that money. So parents like you elect parents to serve with teachers and administrators to be on a school community council. And they study the data of the school. They study how educational achievement's going and how school safety is going and other topics like that. And then they get to advise the principals, the staff, and in many cases the district on this is how a topic of discussion impacts our community, impacts our school, or where our students want. And they laser focus on how can we improve academic achievement. And that's what they look at. So a school community council is not only another place for you to serve as a parent if you have time, but also when you see that little note comes home that says it's time for school community council elections, pay attention to it and know who you're electing, because you're electing them to represent you to allocate money and help improve academic achievement in your schools.
And I will say that, tell you the one thing that has been historic and always will be, as a parent, you are your child's biggest influence. You might think that they're not listening to you and they don't hear what you say. They do. And what you think and what you do matters to them. And when they're teenagers and they're being, little snots like teenagers are, don't kill them because they get married and give you grandbabies. But also, they are listening. They might not let you know, they are listening. So remember that and be involved. Know who you're electing for the SCC. I've been on SCCs before, and it's kind of fun to see what the needs are for your particular school and see what you can use that money from the land trust to do it. The state has been incredibly well managed in that fund. That's grown phenomenally.
Exponentially.
And so it's a lot of money and it goes to a lot of good. So I agree with what Susan just said.
So we have created many ways for you to be able to connect with Canyon School District. And there's the, if you're not listening to the podcast, we'd encourage you to listen to that. It's a weekly podcast about things that are happening in Canyon School District. You can find it on the website. It's right there on the homepage. If you haven't followed us on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and YouTube, we invite you to do so, because we post 2 to 3 times daily about the things that are happening in Canyon's district and our schools. If you have not updated your contact information in Skyward, we ask you to do so, because we use that information to send our messages through Skylert, which is our emergency notification system, and that is the data poll that we use for Parent Square, which is the new mobile app that we have released for use across the district this year. You can always send an email to communications@canyonsdistrict.org, and I have a staff member who is dedicated to responding to all of the emails that come into there. We also have created this portal on our website called Your School, Your Voice. And that is a portal that you can simply send in any question or any suggestion to the district. And I have a staff member who is dedicated to responding to all of those. and also triaging any of the suggestions or questions that come in that make sense in improving our operations. So there are, and of course, you can always come to board meeting. You can provide input during patron comment. You can send emails to your elected representatives on the Board of Education. Those are just a few of the ways that we've created for our patrons to be able to communicate with us, connect with us, and hear what we're doing, and then also allow you that opportunity to give us your input. Susan, did you want to say something?
I just wanted to mention, there's an additional tool, but it is a fluffy tool. It gives you information, but it's kind of superfluous information, and that's called Peach Jar. If I don't know how many of you received flyers and things in Peach Jar. We had listened to our parents a number of years ago, and they said, you know, we don't want to just get, and the other thing is looking at emergency communications. When you receive communications through Skylert, we want you to go, I need to pay attention to this, because it's either my teacher or my school or the district telling me something I need to know. So all the advertisements for Spirit Night and vendors that want to say, hey, you get a discount because you go to Canyons, those type of things, they all come through in that flyer system on Peach Jar. And you can totally set that. You can set them to get them every day or once a week or never. And you can go to your school website, click on Peach Jar, and you can see what's offered. What I do laugh at is when parents call and say, I don't get those great offers for ski discounts anymore. It's like, well, what are your Peach Jar settings? Oh, I don't ever open that. Well, that's where those discounts are. So, but that is structured specifically so that when you get Peach Jar, you can look at it or you don't have to. That's up to you. But when you get Skylert, it's integral information, and then also the Parent Squared now.
Exactly. So just to give you an update on how we are managing the messages that we're sending to you. Like I mentioned at the very beginning, there is the Skylert emergency notification system. That is the system that we used previous to this year to communicate with you. It was one way. The principal would pick up the phone and he or she would record a message. They'd hit send. It would go to you about that day's events or that week's events at your child's school. Or in the middle of the day, you may get a robocall from us saying, there is a shelter in place at your child's school. All the teachers and children are safe. However, at the request of police, we have created a shelter in place protocol until they tell us that the neighborhood is clear of the emergency. Those are the messages that we used before, but there wasn't a chance for you through that messaging system to say anything back. So when you got an email or a robocall from Skylert, it was truly a one-way communication. Plus, there wasn't an instant translation tool. So we would translate into Spanish and also send in English, because those are the two languages that are spoken most in our district. But there are dozens of languages that are spoken at home by parents in our district. And it was a struggle for them when they got a message about an emergency at their child's school, and it took them a long time to translate it, or they just didn't understand. And so they didn't know their child's school was in a lockdown or a shelter in place, or they were having a fire drill. So at dinner that night, they could talk about what they learned during the fire drill. Enter Parent Square. Now you can load it on your phone, and on our website, canyonsdistrict.org/parentsquare/, it has kind of a primer of what Parent Square is about. Parent Square is a mobile app. You can also use it on your web application. And so if you just go on here and Google Parent Square, you can sign in. Now, if you registered your child for Canyon School District this year, we have covered the cost for you to have an account. It's free to you. All you have to do is set up your account. That's it. And from there, you can then access all of the platform's features. A good example is in the coming days, the principals will be able to send a message to the PTA membership. through Parent Square. Or if your child's teacher, instead of having to go to either Canvas or Remind and then Skylert and all of those places, we're centralizing the messages in one app. So you don't have to go to all these various apps to find out how your child's teacher is communicating to you. We found this to be problematic in some of our parent surveys. They were telling me, okay, my kids are in secondary school and I have to go to Class Dojo and 360 and Remind and Parent Square and Canvas. I can't keep up with it all. So we have told our employees that we will pay for the use of Parent Square, which does provide messaging options, both email and text and robocall, and it has an instantaneous translation service.
Into like 50 languages,
Oh,
isn't it?
all of the languages that you could possibly want, probably including Klingon from Star Trek. So, for example,
I'd like to hear that.
there are parents in our community who speak Urdu. That's what they speak at home. They're refugees. Parent Square has the capability for the teacher to send a message in English. As it's being transmitted, it arrives as a text and email to the parent, translated into Urdu. The parent can then respond in Urdu and send it back, and the teacher receives the email translated into English,
Wow,
just like that.
that's amazing.
They can send messages and they can post photographs, they can post information about your child's class. It's how they can communicate directly with you. Now, I do want to tell you that you can use the app and all of its features, but you don't have to if you don't want to. We'll continue to send things through Skylert for a period of time, and even if you never activate your account, you'll still receive texts and emails through our system. We do understand some people have questions about privacy, and that's the reason why we chose that option. Now, like I said, on our website at canyonsdistrict.org/parentsquare/, it has a primer, step 1, step 2, step 3, and a video that we have put together that kind of walks you through the process of what Parent Square really is and how you can use it to stay on top of what's happening in your child's school. I will tell you that with the immediate feedback we've gotten is positive, because parents were getting so frustrated that they had to go to so many places to find out what was happening at their child's school and what was happening district-wide. We've centralized that. Now, of course, nothing's perfect in a rollout, but so far, given the number of people who have signed up to participate and the people who've sent us messages with concerns or questions, it's relatively low. A lot of people are participating, not a lot of people have questions. Every teacher has been asked to use Parent Square, and they've been told that Parent Square is the district-supported app. Now, of course, we haven't mandated they not use other apps if they have found their other apps to be useful for them, but we're not going to assist them if they have technical difficulties, and they're aware of that. Parent Square
On
is
their own.
the direction we're headed, so we have that one-stop shop experience for our parents where they can find information about all of their children and all of their children's schools. And it's free to you. And if you don't want to have it on your phone, you can do everything on your computer. You just go to the website, log in, and there it is. If you've done social media, then you can figure out Parent Square in a couple days. Are there any questions? Yes?
I just wanted to clarify the name of your podcast.
Connect Canyons.
I
Yep.
think that's what I saw.
Yep, Connect Canyons.
And then I didn't see Peach Jar anywhere. I tried looking it up on the district website. Where should I find that?
In the foundation.
You can find it in the foundation, but to see all the flyers that you're looking at, if you go to your school homepage for Draper Elementary, there should be a little peach icon down at the bottom, and you click on it, you can see all the flyers that have come to your area.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can go to the
And if
foundation.
you don't see it, let me know.
And get information there about it, like what it is, what it stands for, the reason why we do it. But like Susan said, go to your child's school's website, go to the very bottom, it's in the footer, click onto it, and it's right up there.
Awesome.
Okay, yes?
Without spending hours on my school's website and the district website, are you guys communicating things like this? Like, sure, I didn't know that existed, I'm new to the district.
Yes.
So will that be sent out in
Have you received, how long have you been in the district?
a couple weeks?
Okay, so
Brand new.
every month you'll receive a newsletter called CSD to You. Or this month it was called All Across Canyons. And it was an introduction to the school year. But every month we send you a newsletter called CSD to You, and it has information like this. Where to go to find information, steps on how to access information in Peachjar or in Skyward and correct your information. This month, if you haven't taken a look at All Across Canyons, I would refer you to page 2. On there is a QR code to our Think Safe website. We've focused a lot this year on making sure our school is as safe as possible. Has all of the list of everything that we've done over the summer to improve our safety and security, and has a list of all of the drills that we ask our schools to do monthly, and it has videos on how we do those drills and what we ask our students to do. So if you want to go on there, it's right there. But yes, we will send you a monthly newsletter.
They'll be coming out.
Yes, and it comes by mail. Yep. Are there any other questions?
You just reminded me of something, Jeff, as we talk about security. We do ask for all volunteers in every school to go on to volunteer.canyonsdistrict.org and become an approved volunteer. You don't have to, especially if you're not going to be in the schools, but if you're going to be in the schools, we ask that you do that. But every time you visit your child's school, you should sign in on a computer in the front office. Everybody that you see in the schools, if they're an employee, should have a badge on at all times. And if you are a parent or visiting the schools, you should stop by the front office on your way in and pick up a badge that's either visitor or volunteer badge and sign in. That way, one, we know you're in the school, and if anything happens, we know who's in our school buildings. And two, for the safety of everybody roaming the hallways, if they look and say, I'm sorry, ma'am, you don't have your badge on, can we go back to the office and maybe get your badge? And so that way, we know who's in our schools and that they're safe to be there. So please go into volunteer.canyonsdistrict.org.
What are the background check requirements?
We check, well, it depends, there's 2 types. But for the general volunteer or supervised volunteer, meaning that you're almost always in the sight line of staff and faculty, you just put your name, birth date in, some information like that, just so that we can see you versus every other, John Smith in the world. We can tell who you are. And then it's just a checking about crimes against a person. And so if it involves something against a child, basically, and some other crimes against a person. So there's a lot of things that we don't worry about, but if you have a crime against a person, you would not be allowed to volunteer in our schools.
And it's a really quick FBI database search.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it said it would be 3 days.
Yeah, it's literally.
That is staff time.
Yeah, it's,
Yes.
we do it, our staff does it, it's a colossal effort, however,
They do
when
a
you
great
have
job.
your child on a field trip, you should know that every volunteer on there has gone through a background check.
Yeah.
Which,
Which is very
to me,
comforting.
when I was, my son's graduated, but when he went on a field trip and he was with the marching band and there were volunteers, it was nice to know that all of those parent volunteers were not just parents of the students in the band, but they'd also gone through that background check. And then every employee, state law requires us to do the background check and fingerprint them. And there are qualifications for them for anything criminal in their background. We have to do an investigation of that before they're cleared to be with students. Are there any other questions? They gave us a signal, it was 5 minutes. That was
And that was-
probably 10 minutes ago.
That was 7 minutes ago,
Yeah.
so.
Are there any other questions? And if you do have them, please go to the My Schools, My Voice portal and send us those questions, or send an email to communications@canyonsdistrict.org, and one of my staff members will get back to you, or I'll just get back to you myself. So,
That's
please,
always
and then
true.
follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, because we would love for you to see all of the great things that are happening in Canyon School District. So thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
being parents.
If anybody
Thank you
would
for
like one of
coming
these
tonight.
flyers for next week.
Come on in, we're about to end this group and start the next one.
Yeah.